Welcome, Udita, to Kevjet the podcast. I'm looking forward to this conversation simply because you're the only person that I've spoken to who's had over 10 years in the Peruvian Amazon. Well, we're going to talk about it, actually. We're going to talk about what it was like. We're going to talk about what made you decide to do that. We're going to talk about everything in between. I'm excited to have you on the show. We've been prepping for this, and welcome.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's a joy, it's a pleasure, it's an honor, all of it together. I'm super happy, super excited, a bit nervous, which I think is probably normal. And yeah, happy to go into the flow and have this wonderful conversation. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm excited about it. It's great. I really want to start sort of with you entering the world, because you entered the world during a power outage under Candlelight.
I did.
And I think that's kind of a big part of your story.
Thank you. Yes. So my father was a civil engineer, and so he took contracts in different parts of the world, mainly third world countries. And so I just happened to be born in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. And yes, I was born by candlelight because the hospital's electricity, the power went. Then they tried the generator failed. The backup generator failed. And I've heard the story from my mother. She's like, oh my goodness, I need to have this baby. And the backup generator failed. And then all the nurses and everybody around there had to run around looking for candles. Obviously, right? You can see what he's doing, trying to get the baby out. And so, yes, I was born by candlelight. And it's funny, isn't it? Because I realized when I was in the jungle that I never missed not having electricity. I lived by candlelight for, I would say, most of my time there. It was only in the last few years that I thought, I'd like a little bit more comfort. And I got some solar panels, but even then the light was so bright, the bulb was so bright of how they installed it all. I really didn't even like having it on. I was happy to just have the candles.
Wow. Before we get into the jungle, let's just kind of set the scene as to what life was like before you decided, I'm going to move myself into the jungle alone.
Yes. Yeah.
What was it a calling?
It was a calling, Kevin. I mean, many people have had perhaps other lives before going into some kind of spiritual path, and not everyone. But I was feeling for some years prior to the calling that happened that there had to be something more. I had this restlessness. I had this feeling that was like, I need to be doing something else. I don't know what it is, but there needs to be more, in a sense, to life than my current life.
What were you doing before that?
I had actually left Australia, and I was with my ex-husband, We were in Belgium, and we left Australia to be closer to our families in Belgium, in England. And it was all good, but again, I was just always having to be, and I had done a teacher training. I went to Hull University. I did a bachelor's honors degree in languages. I did teacher training. I had done all that before, but spirituality or the spirit world had always been a part of my life, no matter doing those regular things, because from very young, I would see people walk through doors or walk through walls, or I'd see somebody at a bus stop walk through the glass part of the bus stop. And, so I was seeing, the spirits from quite a young age. And I guess not having brothers or sisters, I was an only child and spent a lot of time alone in nature with the dogs that we had, so that just to give your listeners a bit of a understanding, having grew up in Africa. So until the age of 16, we lived in Tanzania in East Africa and went every year on a safari. And in those days, it wasn't the luxurious safaris that are available now, right? We're talking very basic, the tent, the camping, far less tourism.
Sure.
So, those were very fond memories of me, the safaris. So going back to your question, living in Belgium, I had the calling, and I started to see a man. I started to see very, very clearly the face of this man. And I knew he was somewhere in South America, but I didn't know where. And he didn't say anything. It was in visions. I'm quite a visual person, so to see something in your mind's eye is quite easy for me. And I saw the river. I saw the village. I saw him standing at the top of concrete steps when you arrive by boat on the river at the village. And after seeing this man for 2 or 3 months, almost every day, Kevin. I knew, no matter that I didn't know anything about him or anything, I knew I have to go and see this man. I have to go to where he is. Of course, how am I going to do this? And then, of course, without even really worrying about it, it just happened one day that a friend of mine sent me an email with an invitation to some plant ceremonies. And who was the person hosting these plant ceremonies? There staring at me was him. Anyway, via, I managed to get his number and called him and just called him. And as soon as I almost said hello, or as soon as I said hola, almost straight away he said, in Spanish, of course, "Hello, Udita, I know who you are, and I'm waiting for you, and yes, you can come." I was just blown away. Kevin. So
You knew you had to do that.
I had to do it. It was a calling. It was a calling to follow. Of course, in the end, what happened is I followed this very old tradition. But, when I arrived there, it was exactly as I'd seen it. It's a very long journey to get there. I took a suitcase and a few things. But it was exactly the river, the boat, arriving at this village of Tamishaku in northeastern Peru on the banks of the Amazon, the concrete steps going all the way up, and there he was standing at the top of those stairs, exactly as I'd seen it over and over and over again.
Wow. And did you have any idea how long you were going to go for?
I did not. I just went and we talked, and I felt, as I said, that this was something I had to do no matter what. So when I started to ask him how long it would take to and do what he does, let's say, try and follow this path and carry on this tradition, he told me 1 year.
Right.
And 1 year to me, even at that point, even now, we go, well, you go to the Amazon, you're going to stay a year. It was like, okay, yeah, fine, I'll do it. And so it was only after the 1 year that he said to me, because we were coming to a conversation of what was going to happen now. And he said, you know what? I wasn't entirely truthful with you. He said, if you actually want to carry on and do at the end, become a curandera, he said, you're going to have to do 3 years. And you know what, Kevin? There was no hesitation. There was no hesitation in me. I cannot describe it. The calling was so strong. It's like you're deeply in your gut, in your soul. You have to do this, and that this is your way. This is your path. And so I agreed.
Wow. So from that moment on, how long did it take before you entered the Amazon?
Okay, so I started doing the dietas at the far edges of his camp in isolation, right? So the dietas, the plant dietas, they're two types. You got the ones for healing, where people come to heal from whatever they need to heal from. And then you have the dietas that are for learning. So in order to start your dieta of learning, you have to heal whatever it is that you need perhaps healing from, because all of us at some point in our lives have had stuff and shit happen, right? So, when you start, this is like the onion, the layers of the onion that are coming off. So you start with taking plants that are going to heal you, that are going to strip you of stuff that you no longer need, so you can become as pure as possible, let's say.
Was this a point in your life where you had already ended your marriage?
No, that came later, during my time in Peru.
Okay.
Yes. But it's interesting that when I was having the calling, when I was back in Belgium and even in Australia before that, I started to get very bad pain in my right arm, and nobody could figure out what it was. I had excruciating pain to the fact where I couldn't use the right arm anymore. I had to brush my teeth with my left hand, which is really unhandy if you think about it, if you have to do that. And through the course of the dietas, especially the initial ones that are for healing, to this day, it's fine. The arm is totally fine, right? And I think whatever doubts I had about myself or my own sort of insecurities, if we're speaking openly, to be honest, Kevin, I always felt for a while that my father wanted a son. Now, I come from, despite the fact that we have, East African, Greek, Indian heritage, there was that notion of elder son producing a son, because my father was the eldest in the family. The eldest son. And there was no son, right? I'm an only child, as I said before. So I will say that before that, my parents were completely oblivious to this. It was something that I felt and that I carried, because I actually talked to my mother about this at a far later point. And she was like, did you feel that Papa wanted a son? And I'm so sorry about that. But I did feel it. I think he wanted me to be, bless him up there now, but he wanted me to be an engineer or a lawyer or, and I wasn't terribly good at the maths or the science. And I did feel the pressure, and even certain things I wasn't allowed to study. I wanted to go and do the art or the languages, and no, I had to go and do the chemistry and the economics. And so, those initial months of the dieta, they heal and they make you shed these thoughts and feelings that you carry within and that really don't serve you obviously anymore. And they take you to another place. They take you to another place from which then you can progress to the other plants and the other trees. And you have to somehow get through also the initial stages where you're in an environment that is totally different, right? You have no running water. You have no electricity. You're not allowed contact with anybody. You're not allowed to speak, really. It's isolation and silence. That's what the long dietas are all about. The food, very simple food. There's only certain types of fish that are permitted to eat in the dieta. There's like 6, 7 types of fish you can have in the dieta. And there's like hundreds of fish in the Amazon, but there's only a few that you're allowed to eat, which are the vegetarian fish. And it's just on the fire, no salt. One of the big things of dieta is there's no salt. And then you have your plátano, which is your plantain, the green bananas, just boiled. That's it. So everything else that you think of when it comes to food, fruit and vegetables and all of that, forget it. There's no oil, no salt, no sugar, no toiletries, no communication. So that whole process of stepping away from the world as we know it and that we live in,
that transition was
ever more into this world, into this reality. That in itself is a process. Forget about everything else, right? So there are many processes going on at the same time. And then eventually you come to a point where you feel it in yourself, and somehow the curandero, your teacher, also spiritually, he will see how you're doing and how you're able to just manage your days emotionally in an emotionally balanced way. Right.
Or even feel like.
When I went there first.
That's like day one, you're on your own. And did the thought ever cross your mind, what the hell am I doing?
Whoa. No, strange as it may sound, Kevin, no. And even later on when I left the camp, because the last year and a half, I had to do it completely alone in the sense of, he said to me, go and find a place in the jungle. So you've come to the point now where you can't even be here. You have to be totally isolated. So I asked one of his sons to help me, and they found me a place that I actually bought. So I bought 6 hectares. That was the only way for me to do it. Nobody was there to guide you or help you. The Peruvian people there in the Amazon are very hard. They're good people, but it takes a while to get used to them because they can be very, very hard. There's no sympathetic ear in the sense, even when people used to come later on and I would help when people came to the camp, there's no like your bedside nurse behavior. Unless you're dying in the street, nobody is going to give you any sympathy of any kind. So it's like, go and find your place. That was a lot of stress, of how I was going to find this place. It had to be a place that was sufficiently big enough to fence it so that nobody could enter. You become very, very sensitive in the diet. Your energetic field becomes super sensitive. Even if somebody's walking 10 meters away, you would feel it. You would feel it in your dietas. So I had to have the whole 6 hectares fenced, which was a massive job in pure jungle to get it fenced, to have my privacy during that time. And then that was a transition to then go from the camp and being isolated in the camp, but still within the camp, to being completely alone on 6 hectares of pure jungle and have my little house built, which took about 3 months for it all to be finalized. And I say house, but it's like a little hut, really. It's off the ground, for the snakes. Very basic, not much in it. And about, maybe 20 meters around it is cleared again for all the creepy crawlies and snakes and everything, right? It had to have water, running water that was drinkable. So there were all these factors, and, we can talk about it now, but you're a million miles away and you're having, it's a big challenge to, to get all this done, especially when you want to do this and this calling is there. So it had a quebrada. Yeah, it had the little stream, and where I would go down for my drinking water, and where I would wash the clothes by hand. You're washing clothes by hand, you're making fire, you're cooking everything on fire, and then the food has to be eaten cold. So you can be starving. I think I was hungry like the whole time I was there, to be honest with you. I was hungry for the whole 3 years. You get very little fish and very little plátano. And you live, I was told, you have to live like an animal, or as much as like an animal as possible in this connection with nature. So again, there's no drinking water. You have to go down to the river, and there's no toilet. There's just what you would call, I guess they call it a dunny in Australia. It's just this wooden seat in like a big hole in the ground, right? And that's it. So very, very, very basic. That took a little while to get used to once I was actually in that hut and I'd made the transition from the camp to the hut. But I knew it was the right thing to do, and I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to leave the camp and be alone. I didn't want to hear people even from a distance. And, the plants make you that way because they're growing in you. They're growing. Everything is building and growing all the time. So you feel it. They want you to be alone. They don't want you to talk with anyone. They don't want you to see anyone, let alone make eye contact with anyone. They want you to be alone. And that force, that energy, all that their consciousness is growing and building all the time. I try and put it into words as best I can.
Yeah, wow. Can you just share the moment when you first felt a strong spiritual, energetic connection with one of your plant or tree allies?
Very good question. Very good question. I guess one of the strongest moments was when I took a plant that I knew was very strong. I had no idea how strong it was. And as you go on your dieta of learning, Kevin, you can sometimes take plants again that you took in the early months, but at a higher dose. And you have to be in really good hands of the curandero who knows what he's doing. Sometimes when we hear, unfortunately, some horror stories or not so nice stories of things that have happened to people, it's because the maestro or the curandera didn't really know what he or she was doing. So I had taken a high dose of a certain plant and I had no idea what would happen. And it was beautiful because this plant had certain celestial connections. We can all look up at the stars, and I don't know about you, we look up at the stars and you feel like home. That's where we come from, right? And it gave me this unbelievable experience of not only being connected to all of creation here on this planet, but also the connection with so many different celestial dimensions and the beings that live therein. I mean, it was extraordinary. And the whole thing lasted about 3 days, like day and night. I didn't even eat hardly or just drink very much during those 3 days. So prior to the 3 days, I knew it was going to be a strong experience. I had purposely brought up from the river a huge bucket of water because I knew that maybe I can't walk and maybe I can't go down to the river. And I need water. It's 35 or 40 degrees and it's 99% humidity, right? And so I had thought of that, thank goodness. And so I had enough water because I was really almost on the floor and then on my bed for 3 full days. And it was the most beautiful, extraordinary experience that will last me until the day I pass from this earth and go back home.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the most challenging part of the dieta? Was it the physical hardship, the isolation, or the intensity of the spiritual work? It's a lot of questions in one.
Did you say the hardest?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say the hardest, Kevin, was only towards the end of the dieta. I must admit that. It was in the last months that I found I was getting weaker in my body. And I had made certain spiritual connections. I had the gift to be able to do that, the privilege, if you like, is a better word. And I had the feeling that spiritually it was done. And of course I know that we never stop learning. I realize this, but in the schematics of Dieta, spiritually I knew that this was it. Because physically my body was saying, I don't know if I can do this anymore. You know, when you go on for months and months and months without all those things I said, the sugar, the salt, and so on, the plants give you all the strength to do it, sure. They give you all the power and the strength to physically manage this dieta. But when the time comes to close it, then you know spiritually and physically this is it. I was finding it more difficult on the physical level. I was very, very, very skinny. I had to sit on a cushion because I had no ass. Sorry. I had, there was like pure skin and bone. So sitting was, but I had been warned about this before. I mean, my teacher had told me when he came out of his diet years and years and many years ago, he looked so ill. He said, you will look so ill and so thin. People will want to take you to hospital, but you know inside what you've done and it's fine. And you just have to start eating normal food again. So that was the hardest. The dietas itself, I loved it. The hardship was part of it and you just do it because it's one thread of so many threads. But it was towards the end that physically I knew the body saying no.
Of course. Wow.
Yeah.
The Mapacho spirit plays a big role in your work.
It does.
How would you describe its presence and guidance to someone who has never encountered it?
So you have very good questions. Its presence and its guidance to someone who is not connected with it. I would say that if you've not connected with it, I would describe it as a presence that is, even in its subtlety, you can feel that it is male and an unbelievably profound wisdom and the power to make you connect further with yourself, the power to give you good guidance. They say that the tobacco spirit never lies. This is why, just to give you a little insight, this is why when you drink tobacco, and I would never advise anybody to drink tobacco because they're going to die, but in the jungle, because tobacco was one of the master plants that I dieted. One of the things that we were always told there, and that is known amongst this tradition of curanderismo, is that when you diet tobacco and you then see something, whatever it may be, any kind of vision, it's going to be meaningful to you. You're going to understand it. It's going to have truth in it because the spirit of tobacco does not lie. Because, you can take other plants and, there are all kinds of other mixtures that people do nowadays. And you're going to see a whole bunch of visions that don't mean anything to you and take you on some trip. And that's how it is. So it's, it is one of the master plants of the world. It is a integral part of my work. And it's one of my spirits because it's one of the spirits alongside the spirits of the plants, and trees that I dieted. And also there's, in general, people have been quite positive with tobacco, but, sometimes you can have a negative connotation when, someone hears about the tobacco and I want to go and work with them with tobacco. But in general, it's a very pure plant. It's the pure plant. The mapacho is pure tobacco. There's no additive or nothing chemical in there. One of the reasons why also tobacco is so integral in this part of Peruvian curanderismo, or this tradition of healing, is that the spirit of the tobacco and the spirits of the plants are very much like connected. They have a very, very interconnected relationship, so they complement each other, they help each other, and it gives you tremendous energetic strength during the diet, as well as establishing it as an ally and having, as I said, the privilege to have these amazing spirits of these trees and plants as your allies, as your teachers and guides. It's a privilege,
You sort of answered the next part of my question, but I'm going to ask it anyway in case you want to add anything to it, because I think it's quite interesting. So it's just, how do these spirits or plants, trees, mapacho, actually communicate with you? Is it like a conversation? Is it a vision, which you just spoke about, or can it be something entirely different?
Yeah. Okay. In the sessions that I do with clients, Kevin, they are sessions where the spirits will come through. So they can be vision, but a lot of the time it can also just be information that comes through for the person. So, it's visionary. They might show me something for that person, showing me their guides as well, that person's guides, whichever guides they may have. And then also the information comes almost telepathic, I would say. It can be like 5 sentences of something and it will come through in a second, right? So, and I think, those are the two ways. And then, of course, what also happens is that there's an energetic transfer, and that happens without my knowledge. And I had no idea this was going to happen before I started doing this kind of work. But there's some kind of really wonderful energy that goes from me to the person, that goes from the spirits that are inside me, right? Having drunk all these different plants and trees over all that time, they live inside me. And I hope it doesn't sound freaky to people, but every plant, every tree, every animal, every bird has a spirit. And these are trees and plants that are known to want to bond with humans. There are other trees and plants you could diet in the jungle and maybe nothing would happen in the sense of your learning and growth and perception and all of that. But because it's a tradition of thousands of years, they know which trees and plants are for what, right? Which ones are for protection? Which ones are for learning? Which ones are to heal cancer or depression? Which ones are to help you deepen your connection with yourself? And these ones for learning are known for their desire to make that alliance and bond with human beings. So drinking it is one thing, and then doing the dieta with love and discipline and devotion even makes you bond even more with the spirit of that plant or tree.
Sure. After years in the jungle, how did your work evolve naturally into helping others not just heal, but also find peace and reconnect with their true self?
Nice question. It evolved naturally in its own way. As I said, I went there not knowing how it was all going to work and turn out, or what I would even do afterwards, except my general idea of following this tradition of wanting to help and heal people, right? Or help people in whichever way I could. I started to travel back to Europe, mainly Germany, because I have a lot of good friends in Germany. So I would go to Germany and I would start the sessions with people there in person. People would come and see me. And then I guess, as so many people with what happened some years ago with everything going online, it also naturally happened online because I was living over there. And then because I had established quite a large group of clients in Germany, people were then word of mouth and wanting to have a session with me. And I'm like, well, I'm still over there in Peru, but let's do an online session, right?
It's bizarre because you're in a jungle with nothing.
I know, by which time I had a power bank, I had a phone, right? And I had, obviously a phone that had the WhatsApp on it. And so I would do WhatsApp calls or video calls for 1 hour. And I started doing my sessions over there in the jungle. And then coming back here, as I said, about 4 years ago now to the UK, continuing with it online. And I have found, Kevin, I always seem to get, obviously you get the right people coming to you in the sense that they're already open, right?
You feel a connection even though it's an online experience.
You do. And no matter what their own work situation is or whatever profession they are in, and I've had people and clients from all kinds of professions, doctors, pilots, teachers, nurses, business coaches, whatever. I have found especially the last few years, that it is about what you were saying in that question. They want that connection. They want more peace in their life, and they want to feel that connection with themselves, with their true self, their godlike self, more intuition, more centeredness. They're all wanting that. Many clients are wanting that, no matter how successful they are, no matter what their situations are, or the help they need with. And it might be several things that they want help with, their relationship or having not much direction in their life or whatever. But one of the things alongside that is always about, I'd like to have more connection with myself, more intuition, more perception. Yeah. And more peace.
What does true power mean to you?
True power, I would say, you have so many good questions. I would say true power is when you are truly yourself and you are truly in your true nature. You are loving yourself fully, not in any sort of holy moly way, but really just loving all of who you are and being true to yourself, true to your own natural self. And when you are in your true self, being who you are, you then come into your true power naturally. So the two are completely interconnected. So I would say that is for me, when you are able to be yourself fully, you are in your full true power.
Right. If someone comes to you and they say they're feeling blocked, it can be in several different ways, how would you help them find that blockage and release that?
Okay, well, there are a couple of things that I would do. One of the things I would ask them to do is I would ask them if they clear themselves regularly. And a lot of people don't. So the blockages can come, to establish where the blockages are, right? Is it something that you've just picked up that's sitting in your field from someone else, or from going out somewhere, right? Or from not getting on well with someone, Or is it something that you've carried with you for a while, and that is there and that needs to be lifted? So we would, through the session, as I said before, I will go into a lot, it's not really an altered state. It's just a state that is more in connection with my spirits, because they know when I'm going to go into a session, right? So you're just refining that connection a little bit and going into that session. They will come forward with information or insights for the person. So things happen and unravel very naturally and also quite quickly in that hour session that people have with me. But I would ask them to clear. And even if it is something that really needs to be cleared because it's been there for a long time, I will always ask them to clear themselves first before I give them something to do. We will talk about clearing. What do they do if they've never done it before? I will show them or, give them advice on how to clean themselves. And then very often I will take it from there to what comes through for me. But I have different rituals, Kevin, that are very simple, but they're different ones for different things, depending on the issues, or let's say, the things they want help with. And whether it's the blockages, whether it's a relationship, whether it's more confidence in themselves, whatever it may be, a trauma of some kind, I have different rituals gifted from the plants and from that tradition. And I will ask them to do that. And they're very simple, but they can go from 7 days to 3 days to 10 days. And then we will schedule the next session after they've done that and had their process with it.
You ever have clients who come to you without explaining why they're coming to you? And so they're kind of just sat in front of you and you're just surprised with whatever's going to come at you? Or are you always prepared?
I wouldn't say I'm always prepared, but I don't think I've ever had someone who's just come to me like, without sort of just, hello, here I am, sort of thing. No. I mean, usually people do send me something that, they're asking for a session, and then they will say a little bit about what they want help with, even if it's just 2 sentences or 40-second audio,
Sure. Yeah. Just if there's somebody out there who's listening, and what's one simple practice anyone listening at home right now or watching, thank you, by the way. If there's anyone out there listening or watching at home, a simple practice that they can do at home to begin deepening their own connection with themselves and the spiritual world.
There are quite a few, but one spiritual practice is to have a white candle burning on the new moon, or it can be any night. That's where the saying comes, it is only in the silence that spirit is heard. Right. It's in the silence that you hear the voice of your soul. Let all that chatter just dissipate for a bit, and then you can get the intuition or perception or a new idea about something. Quieten that mind. And so if you light a white candle on the new moon, because our energetic field is more open on the new moon, and I would just spend a few minutes looking at the flame of that white candle. Because if you look at the flame of a white candle, it will start to still the mind. And just breathe, focus on your heart, focus on your breath, focus on your third eye. Even if it's for like 5 minutes. And then you can open your eyes and you look at that flame of the white candle and you see what comes to you. As being opening that channel more. that I would light an incense. It's always nice to have an incense burning, and whatever fragrance you like. There are some that are really good for more protection or just cleaning the space, of course, like sage and cinnamon and all kinds of blends, right? The nag champa as well. And you just spend the time looking at that flame of the white candle, and then the mind chatter will dissipate. Focus on your breath, as I said. And if you, after a few minutes, as you find the thoughts dissipating, you can just see what comes. You might even get a flash of a vision. You might get an idea, an intuition. Don't disregard it. I always say to people, don't disregard it. It's of value, right? Don't just say, oh, I just made it up, or I don't know, did I really hear that? Or did I really see that? No, embrace it. Yeah.
I love that. And anyone listening at home is probably thinking the same thing I am right now, where your voice is so soothing and calming. So I'm feeling very relaxed, and I feel like I'm in a meditation. It's very nice. And I think the listeners at home are probably thinking the same thing right now.
And can I just, Kevin, share something with you as well in regards to that ritual, which I would say is, and the listeners, if you want to do this, those who are listening, it's a wonderful thing to do. Whilst you're looking at the white candle on the new moon, it's one of the rituals that I will sometimes give to clients, where you say, I let go of any fears, doubt, pain, insecurity, suffering, whatever comes to you, right? I let go of lack of self-confidence. I let go of all of that. And then at the end, the sentence is, in all space, time, dimensions, and incarnations. And you say that looking at the flame of the white candle, especially the blue part, where, you have the blue part of the candle, and then it becomes the white golden flame. And then after that, you say, I let go of anyone who has ever done me harm, whether consciously or subconsciously, in all space, time, dimensions, and incarnations. So everybody's had someone where, oh, this person did this to me, or, I did everything, but why did this person do this to me? And we've all been hurt by people, and we carry it. Whether we think we don't, we carry it somewhere. And those two phrases, one after another, when you say that, on the new moon, looking at that base of the blue flame, it takes it up into that divine light and out. And I say, you can do that as often as you want, and you will feel the healing, the transformation, you will feel the benefits. I don't know if benefit is the right word, but you will feel what that does for you.
Sure.
There's nothing to be afraid of. It's a very beautiful, powerful ritual to do on the new moon.
Remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What sound in the jungle what was your favorite sound in the jungle during your dieta?
Kevin, I have two, if I'm allowed to. I have the sounds of the cicadas at night. The jungle is so loud at night. It is so loud. People who think the jungle is quiet, I know a lot of people would think the jungle is noisy anyway, because nature, everything comes alive at night, right? It is so loud at night. I love the sound of the cicadas. I do miss the night noises and sounds of the jungle, I will tell you. I've been in England now 4 years, but I still miss it, Kevin. I still miss those sounds at night. And I miss some of these birds that are so mystical. There are insects and birds in the Amazon that you wouldn't even have the name of in English. So there's a bird, and I don't know what it would be called in English, but it has this mystical, beautiful, almost melancholic sound that almost sounds like, hey, mama. Really like that. Mama. Sounds like that. And there's a story, I don't remember the whole story now, Kevin, but there's a story about how people got lost and they were trying to find their way back home to their mother. But if you really listen to the bird, it really sounds like what I just said. So that's what I miss.
Wow. A plant spirit with the most nurturing energy.
I can't say one. I really can't say one. They are all nurturing, Kevin. They're all nurturing. They're all wise, empowering, loving. They can sometimes be male. They can be female, but all nurturing, all loving. I could not give you one or a single one out.
This might sound like a silly question, but which one would have the best sense of humor?
Again, I'm not allowed to say names of plants that I've taken for certain reasons. I'm not allowed to say, but there is a plant that comes to mind, and it can be quite humorous. The spirit of this plant are very small women and men, all dressed in indigenous clothing, but they're very, very small. and they laugh a lot. So they would have a good sense of humor. But the spirits have a good sense of humor anyway. You know, they can play games. They can make things disappear and then appear again somewhere else that you left it.
What was one food that you craved the most during isolation?
It was not a food. It was coffee.
I would struggle with that.
It was coffee. In the beginning, you really do find it a little bit difficult. I think the first 2 weeks, and your body is also going through a detox process, right? But then afterwards, again, you don't want anything. You don't crave any of these other foods because you don't want it because you know it's not good for you. Just like you don't want to talk to anybody. You don't want to see anybody, right? You know what's good for you because they're these living forces inside you and they get pissed off if you do the wrong thing. You know, so no contact is no contact. You know, if you try and find a phone and try and make a phone call, you're going to have a nightmare that evening because they don't like it. They don't want the communication. It is distracting. You have to be in silence, in isolation. And that was a beautiful thing. I mean, I must say, you know, but I got distracted. What were you asking?
A food that you craved, which was...
Oh, yes. The cravings disappear very quickly. First 2 weeks, I think they're gone. And then they never came back again for me. But I did miss coffee. And that was one of the first things I asked when I was back on salt and starting to eat other foods. I was like, when can I have a cup of coffee? I had to wait 1 month, I think. I had to wait 1 month to have that cup of coffee.
What is one word that captures your life today?
Happy. One word.
Yeah.
Happy. Peaceful. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful is another word.
Just blessed. That's not a feeling as such in the sense like you can say, I feel happy. I feel blessed, feel happy, peaceful, connected. Always so much more to learn, right?
Another silly question, but I have a feeling your answer will be quite, if you were a vegetable, which would it be?
What a question.
And why?
Vegetable. Does that include fruit?
Sure.
Could be a pomegranate.
I knew you were going to say that.
It's so bizarre. I love pomegranates. I think they're just divine. You mix it up into a salad or whatever. I mean,
I were going to say that or a kiwi.
Really? Okay.
Not sure what.
Wow. Very nice. Okay. I must have seen it and then you saw it.
Exactly. Modern day, a modern evening out. Like, what's your perfect night out in this crazy world we live in now?
Did you say perfect night out?
Perfect night. So say it's a night out, not a night in. So you're going out. What would that look like now for you?
Something that I've done?
Something that you most look forward to often. So if you're going to plan like a perfect evening out, whether it's with your husband or your friends or what is that?
You know, we love to go out for curry, my partner and I. For me, not having had certain foods for so long, I really appreciate food now. You know, I really do. I appreciate having the creature comforts, you know, the hot shower. So curry, going out for a curry with good friends, just having a laugh. Friendship is, you know, as we all know, is so important. You can count your best friends on your hand if you're lucky, right? So just going out with good people good friends, good connections, having some curry or having some good food. But I do love curry. And another thing that just came to mind that popped into my mind as you said that was just also I love a fire. So if you just, you know, in the summertime or spring or even autumn, you wrapped up a little bit and good friends around the fire, maybe roasting something on the fire and music and dance and nice conversations. I would say those things.
I like that. What was your transition like back into the real world? Because I say the real world. I mean, the jungle could be the real world, but into modern society because you gave up a lot for all those years.
Yes.
You were very content.
I was content. You're right.
Was there a big change in the world when you came back to modern society? Was there something that had been invented or come out into the market or something that you had to learn that you had no idea?
There probably was a lot. I don't remember now. I don't know how long WhatsApp had been out for. I had no idea about smartphones. Let's put it that way.
So the idea of like seeing each other talking like this, was that something when you came back out?
That I didn't even do that. Not even the FaceTime or all that. It was just about knowing that the WhatsApp was there to call, right? And the transition was first of all, just going from the jungle hut to the camp, that in alone was a transition that took several months. Then being ready or feeling able to see other people and go to the village was another transition. And then I think it took another 2 years before I took a flight to Europe.
Right.
So
I think it's interesting because in the jungle, you're connected to Earth and you're connected to every single living thing in the jungle. You come out of the jungle and everybody's connected, but to their phones and they're all connected to something that a modern technology that means nothing.
Yes. Yeah, and technology has its good sides, right? Sure, Kevin, but we also know what you say. I mean, here, just, how many times do I see people walking their dog and they're actually on their phone? I mean, just, so I found it. I mean, I have a practice. It's not a practice that even you're forced to do. I love to be in nature. I think nature is so healing. Nature gives us so much. It's beautiful. So I do love to walk and go out to beautiful nature as often as I can on a weekly basis, right? Without the phone. Okay. Listen to the birds, feel the wind, look up at the sky, right? But I think having lived there also for so long, now I think I do quite well because I can manage the underground, I go on the tube, if we can go into London sometimes, but I do find that going into shopping malls and all that, I would much prefer to walk into a store that's on the street, because that took a long time for the first years traveling to Germany to work and traveling to Europe and, seeing friends and family. I didn't really want to go into shops. I didn't really, it was just this concrete jungle. I did find it very, very hard. I did find it hard for quite a while, but now it's, I think I do all right now.
What's your advice to anybody who's listening and saying, I would love to have her experience. I would love to go into the jungle on my own and do this for myself. What would be your advice to them?
If you want to do it, do it. If you want to go ahead and do it, do it. But I will say, if you can, know a little bit about person you're going to. Now, I know that can seem a little bit, strange because of my situation that I shared, because I didn't know and I saw this man and then, but, I did also go to some of his ceremonies in Germany before going to the jungle. So there's so much we can talk about, Kevin. So I didn't just go there. I did also see him in Europe. Get a feel for him, so to speak. And then I did, as I said, I went to Peru and I saw him waiting for me exactly in that way. I never want to discourage anyone from doing what they feel passionate about, whatever it may be. But I will also say that the jungle is not the jungle that it used to be. I have contact with a few people there still. There's someone who takes care of my house and my little piece of land. And they even say to me, you know what, Udita, you really did this at the most perfect time. You were called to do this at such a good time. The universe, everything worked for you to be able to do this because things are not like they used to be. There's more crime. They all want to be like Westerners nowadays, the jungle people. Forget their old way. Even the young people, forget it. No young person wants to do a diet. And unfortunately, there's a lot of, illegal activities of all kinds of things. It's not the most safe place anymore. Of course, they can be safe places. I'm just being, the reality of it, Kevin, is that the Amazon is not like it was 10 years ago. In my last 3 months, I had 5,000 fish stolen in one night. And I was starting ever so slightly to feel unsafe. I knew my time had come to an end. I was always was given the guidance that my work was going to be in Europe. I wasn't going to live in the jungle for the rest of my life, right? And in one night, 5,000 fish got stolen. I was in shock by that. I had built this up with the person who's still looking after my property there. And he was in shock. His wife was in tears because sometimes you can't get any fish in the market. So this was like building up a source of food, right, for his family as well. And he was just in awe of it. He's had his chainsaw stolen and 3:00 in the morning. They break into his little house over there on the banks of the Amazon and they've stolen all his chainsaws, all his work tools. So of course you can find a good person and a good place to do it in. I'm just also saying to people out there that, do a bit of research if you can, because the world is not like it was 10 years ago. We know that even the Amazon is not like it was 10 years ago. There's grinding poverty there, and this is why the crime rate is high, right? But on another note, whatever you want to do in your life, whatever you are passionate about, if you feel something so strongly and you want to do it, go for it. That's what's going to make you happy, right?
So true. Finally, if somebody out there is listening and they want to get in touch with you and they want to have time with you, how do they get in touch with you? Where do they find you?
Okay. Thank you, Kevin. It's easy enough. My website is healingwithudita.com. So one word, undercase, lowercase, I should say, Healing with Udita. And you find my email and my phone number on there. I'm quite happy for people to either email me or WhatsApp.
I definitely will share all of that with the promos, and it will be on my website as well.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
I loved our chat.
I did too. Thank you so much. I just have so much, when I think about the Amazon and the plants and the stories and, even like the anaconda, which we never got into today, but there's so much. And then I'm trying to answer your questions and I have all these different ideas and experiences in my head and my heart, but it was a joy. It was an absolute joy and fun. And thank you so much for having me on Kevjet, the podcast.